the American Sports Cavalcade. A panorama of speed, color, drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade.
Those who have seen it say there's no more majestic sight in North America than Washington State's Mount Rainier. Those who have heard it say there's no thunder in motor racing like NHRA Championship drag racing. Today at Seattle International Raceway, you can see one and hear the other as we bring you coverage of the Jolly Rancher Candy Northwest Nationals. One year ago here, then defending Winston Top Fuel champ Gary Ormsby defeated a fireballing Chris Karamazidis in the Top Fuel final battle. An Ormsby car has returned to Seattle, but not with Gary in the seat. He's at home in Roseville, California, fighting the fiercest battle of them all against cancer. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans. Handpicked by Gary to finish out the season in this car is six-time Funny Car event winner Gordy Bonin. His first time down the racetrack put this car right into the fours where it belongs. What a ride.
What a ride, Steve. I tell you, stepping on the gas, I knew, boy, hang on, and then it was just like it was over. I mean, it was the quickest ride of my life, no question.
And you'd been out of the seat a while.
2 years, and I said, yeah, I'll probably be a little rusty, but I mean, this Castrol crew and this team, I mean, they're a machine.
No one has more inspiration to win the day than you do.
None at all. I mean, we're doing this whole thing for Gary. He could have parked this. This whole crew is just, I mean, we're there, and we're here. We want to take that trophy back to Gary on Tuesday.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Now let's go to Big Daddy Don Garlis with more Top Fuel news from Seattle.
Well, Steve, I'm in Joe Amato's pit, and with this team and this car, he has won the last two NHRA national events. Now, the reason that he's been able to do that is because this car is very fast, and it's also very consistent. Now, one of the reasons that is consistent is because of this man, the crew chief, Tim Richard. He knows how to turn the wrenches. Now, can you cause Joe to win 3 in a row?
Oh, I can't cause them by myself, but as a team, we probably can. This car obviously has the horsepower to do it, but when you come to race day, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we'll see what happens here.
Well, you've done pretty good so far. You've put it in the #1 spot with a nice, strong 4-second run. Can you make it run 4s today? Is that practical?
It's not practical to try to do it, but sooner or later, we're going to have to do it.
There's a couple of them out there that can run 4s, right?
Oh, there's a couple cars here that can run our tail off, and you have to be careful with all of them.
Well, there you heard it. It's very difficult with a fast car. Okay, so more on the funny cars. Let's go to Brock Yates over in the funny car pits.
Well, as work progresses in the morning warm-up on Roland Along's funny car, I'm with Jim White, the man in the cockpit, most comfortable position in the morning to sit here as he gets ready to fire this big engine up. This man has been enormously successful this year as far as low qualifier is concerned. 7 low qualifying times in major NHRA events, but only 2 victories. Jim, odds-on favorite, I would imagine you looked upon looking toward a victory here.
Well, we really do. This car runs so well. Wes Cerny and Roland and the entire crew work hard. We develop a lot of new parts, and so the car runs exceptional well. I've kidded that we have a Friday, Saturday car, and then we have a Sunday car sometimes, because on Sundays we've had some difficulties. When you have the strongest car, the quickest and the fastest car, you really believe that you ought to win, and we've only had the 2 wins, but they were great wins. They were my only 2 wins, and I'm proud of them. We believe that the car runs so well that we really intimidate some of the other teams. When they come up to races, they know here this car can run 522 and 530. They're going to have to do something special to try to beat us. So oft times they'll red lights, sometimes they smoke the tires because they're trying to run some of the numbers that we run, and maybe they just don't have quite the combination to do that just yet. We do, and we can.
Well, let's hope you got a Sunday car today.
Boy, isn't that the truth? It'll be great.
Okay, go get him. Steve?
Well, we'll be seeing Jim White a little bit later on. Right now, it's time for the first race of round number 2 in Top Fuel, and it will feature the star of the mid-season, the man who has dominated this 3-race Western Swing, Joe Amato, the #1 qualifier at 496. 2 weeks ago, he closed in on Don Prudhomme's points lead in Denver. Last week, he took that points lead, and here this weekend, he is extending it because Don Prudhomme was beaten in round number 1 by Cruz Pedregon.
Well, Joe Amato got here by beating Doug Herbert, and Dick LaHaye disposed of Laurie Johns, who didn't run all that well at this event. Now, Bonham, he beat Scott Coletta, and Eddie Hill beat Gene Snow.
A couple of huge upsets on the other side of the ladder in round 1. We talked about Cruz Pedregon getting by Don Prudhomme, but also Frank Hawley fell at the hands of Corey McClanahan, who's really been on a tear. Kenny Bernstein and Tom McEwen also advanced through round number 1. But right now, of course, it is Dick LaHaye who tries to take the measure of Joe Amato, who right now seems to be invincible. He's got all the number 1s here in Seattle again. The number 1 qualifier, victorious in round number 1. He's got top speed. There's nothing he doesn't have right now, Don Garlett.
Well, I was over in LaHaye's pit, and he said he is ready for Amato. He's going to take him out.
LaHaye has gone back to an engine combination that took him to a Winston championship some years ago, and it appears to be working again. Staged and ready. You're on board with Joe Amato. Look at LaHaye. LaHaye on the left side of your screen. LaHaye suddenly drops back, and Amato is the winner at 5:07, 281 miles per hour.
And a lucky winner at that, because LaHaye had him wired all the way. Let's go back to Big Daddy with Tim Richards at the starting line.
Well, it fell off a little from that first round. Temperature out here kind of getting to it?
No, it fell off, but I don't know the reason for it. It should have went quicker than that. We got plenty lucky. I think Dick threw the belt off, and we're here by that only. Thanks.
So Tim Richards highly relieved after his man drops from a 498 in the first round to a 5:07, and then pulls out a victory after Dick LaHaye had him all the way down a quarter mile. He beat Amato off the line and almost ran as good an ET, except only 244 miles an hour through the timing lights, which indicates that kind of a finish. Almost a victory for Dick LaHaye despite his problem.
When you only win by 2 1/1000ths of a second, not even the winning driver, Joe Amato, knew what had happened.
See, I was sitting here mad at myself. I thought I saw him in front of me. I thought he beat me. I mean, I was kind of figuring I lost.
No, that was your 10th consecutive round victory.
Unbelievable. I mean, what can I say, you know?
Any track, any altitude, it doesn't matter.
Well, that's Tim Richards and my guys. I keep saying it over and over. They're like brain surgeons out there working on this car. I mean, they just give me the best ride. Puts a lot of pressure on me, believe me, a lot of pressure to stay even with them guys because they're so good.
And it's a good race like that that keeps you pumped up.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That was a big run because when the snake went out in the first round, you know, we got to keep pace with Bernstein the points now just to try and get the big picture on the table.
Can anybody stop the Amato onslaught?
Well, Steve, but for 2/1000ths of a second, this man, Dick LaHaye, would have stopped Joe Amato, and Joe goes over to give him a hug and say, thanks for the break, partner. Okay, you're looking at the talented gloved fingers of crew chief Austin Coyle working on the engine of John Force. They'll put that into Force's funny car and be ready later on for round 2 of funny car action from Seattle. Stick with us.
All of these championship-winning drivers have one thing in common: Goodyear Racing Eagles. The race-winning technology that's found in the Goodyear Racing Eagles can also be found in the world's best-selling line of high-performance street tires, Goodyear Eagle Street Radials. The champions know, and it's why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
Welcome back to the NHRA Jolly Rancher Northwest Nationals. You're looking at the pit area of funny car star Mike Dunn, currently number 2 in Winston points, 3-time winner this year. He'll be up against Del Worsham when round 2 of funny car action rolls around. Right now, let's go to Brock Yates with Dick LaHaye.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dick, you just heard Joe tell you that he thought you beat him, and 2 1/1000ths of a second is the difference. It's one of those races you hate to see anybody lose.
Well, we lost the blower belt, you know, just before the finish line. It was about 100 foot before the finish line, and I was sure I had him wired on the run, and the car was running good and making a good move, and, you know, those belts break every now and then. I guess it was our turn to break one. And
yeah. Great show and a great drag race.
Thank you, Brock. Appreciate it.
Well, a guy like Dick LaHaye has to put the almost was and the should have beens behind him and just soldier on through this Winston tour. His time will come. We've got an opportunity now, a real potential for 4-second side-by-side runs. Cody Bonham versus Eddie Hill, both qualified in the fours at 4.98 each. And of course, for Gordy Bonin and the Castrol crew, this is so much more than just another drag race. Earlier, I had a chance to grant a wish from the crew. We told you earlier of the tremendous struggle that Gary Ormsby is going through and why he can't be here. His dedicated crew have not been able to talk to Gary. They've been on the road since his illness struck, and they have something they'd like to say. Dick?
Yeah, Gary, I know how hard it is for you. They're sitting at home there, and we're going to do our best here this weekend to bring back the Oscar for you, and I wish you the best.
Dana?
Hey, Gary, I know it's been a long couple of months, and we just want you to hang in there. I know you can beat this, and Susie, you take care of him, and we'll see you soon.
Talking about girlfriend Susie Hoops. And Brian?
Yeah, we're pulling for you, Gary. We really miss you. It's not the same without you out here. Hurry back.
Well, I think that crew has really done a tremendous job. You know, they've been out 5 races, and to come back and run into the 4s on the very first run is really a compliment to their ability.
And their opponent, Eddie Hill, is back in the 4-second zone. Of course, he was the first to ever dip beneath 5 seconds in the history of the sport. The former boat racer from Wichita Falls, Texas. He can be dangerous on any track, anytime, any round. He got by Gene Snow round 1. And Gordy Bonin not only has a chance to represent Gary Ormsby in this Castrol car, but also an opportunity to reform his own drag racing career, something he's been wanting to do for 2 years. That was not a voluntary retirement.
Well, Gordy Bonin's been around this business for a long, long time. I'm sure Big Daddy remembers running against him back in the 70s. In fact, at one time, they used to call him 240 Gordy. I guess he was one of the first guys to run consistently at about 240. I know he's going to go faster than that now.
Oh, boy, is he. Eddie Hill smokes the tires. Gordy Bonin, 5:05. OET so far of the round, 281 mile per hour, a big speed. Let's go to Don Garlits down on the starting line with the crew chief on this car, Lee Beard.
Well, you kind of got Richards in a corner there. Now you got lane choice going into that next round with him.
Well, we do have lane choice. It is a good position for us to be in. The main thing is the spirit of Gary Ormsby is with us here today, and that spirit is probably the only thing that stopped Joe Amato here in the last couple of years, and we're going to need all the help we can get. Thank you.
Enormous determination on the part of Lee Beard and his crew as they get ready to go against Joe Amato. But right now, a good race coming up. Tom McEwen and that brand new revived Jack Clark team against Kenny Bernstein, who is now 3rd in points, Big Daddy.
Well, Bernstein's looking good, Brock. He ran low ET in round 1 with a 4.97, but McEwen ran 4.99, so that's just a heartbeat away. So it's a good possibility that McEwen is going to give Bernstein a really good run. So he's going to have to be on his toes. Steve?
Well, this is one dream that Gordy Bonin hopes he never wakes up from. Headed for the Final Four. Great job.
Thank you, Steve. Gary, buddy, I love you. That's 2 for you. We got 2 more.
5:05. Slow down a little bit.
The sun came out. We were trying to get those clouds back. We couldn't do it. But it's a good place to start. We got 2 more, and we're going for it.
Well, let's hope you keep lane choice. So far, not a big factor, though.
Not really, no. I mean, I grew up here. The left lane's always better. We've been in the right twice. It's worked so far.
Track knowledge, home court advantage. Might take him all the way.
Well, in fact, Gordy Bonin started his racing career here at Seattle International Raceway, and if anybody can read the local conditions, it is Gordy Bonin. Tom McEwen, well, from Southern California, one of the great veterans of this sport, Mountain Valley, running with the new Jack Clark team, the baseball player. His crew chief, Larry Meyer, just came over from the Laurie Johns team and making that car run quickly, and they'll need it against Kenny Bernstein and Dale Armstrong. They put together a pair of 4-second passes in qualifying and in defeating Tim Morgan. So the old pros, McEwen and Bernstein, go to the line.
Staged and ready. Oh, a brilliant start by Bernstein. Then he smokes the tires. McEwen loses traction, but it's McEwen all the way at 5:34. That's amazing considering the tire smoke, 270 miles per hour. Let's go to Don Garlits down on the starting line with a no doubt frustrated Dale Armstrong.
What a tough break, Dale.
Yeah, Don, I don't know what to say. We didn't make no changes. We got the clutch awful light, and it jumps up and does something like that. We've sort of been plagued with that this year, unexpected things, but we'll keep trying.
Well, I think that track changed dramatically from that first round.
Well, somewhat, but it looks great up there, Don. If you were to go up there and look at that track right now, it's nice and tight. It isn't pulled up. It looks plenty good.
Just warmer.
Yeah.
Well, Gordy Bonin had explained it when he said the clouds were here earlier. I wish we could get them back. You just have to make adjustments. You know, play the hand that's dealt you. From two veterans to two relative newcomers here. Up next is Cruz Pedregon versus Corey McClanathan. That is Pedregon over in the far lane, the bright blue car belonging to Larry Minor. Minor also fields Ed McCullough's funny car we'll be seeing later on when round 2 of that breed rolls around. Corey McClanathan came out of the alcohol dragster ranks in the sportsman category to field his own race car. He gets a little bit of help from Darrell Boyan, kind of as a consultant advisor, and it has really paid off with a car they call the Mac Attack. Cruz Pedregon, a second-generation driver out of San Jacinto, California, the home base for Larry Minor Racing in its many forms. Well, that's a pretty car, isn't it, Brock?
Sure is. A great-looking piece of machinery. Of course, Larry Minor, plenty of dollars and experience behind that team to launch old Cruz, hopefully, to a victory here in the second round.
Both of these cars have been run very sparingly this year. In fact, Corey McClanathan's car is relatively new. He had a problem at Memphis last year, blew a tire, and bent his old car up pretty good and parked it. Corey McClanathan's engine does not sound good at all. In fact, he shuts it off. He's not even going to leave the starting line. And what a break for Cruz Pedregon, who smoked the tires even harder than Tom McEwen did in that far lane. But he had the luxury of being able to shut it off with nobody chasing him.
So he'll cruise through the lights at a steamy 77 miles an hour, but we'll move on to the semis. Based on the breakage of Corey McClanathan's car that you see getting pushed back to the truck there. An unfortunate break for him, but a great break for Cruz Pedregon, who will face Tom McEwen in the semifinals. McEwen with lane choice by a mile. Second pair, Joe Amato versus Gordy Bonin. Bonin has lane choice, but only by a wink. That's going to be a great race between that pair. We'll be back. Stick with us.
Welcome back to the NHRA Jolly Rancher Northwest Nationals. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates and Big Daddy Don Garlett. And there is John Forrest doing his Desert Storm imitation. Actually, where's that breather mask? Because Gucci Boston Coil runs so much nitro through the engine just warming it up. It all gets trapped under the awning on the trailer, and it can get pretty brutal in there. Let's take a look at the competition ladder. 16 cars qualified. No major upsets in round 1. Jim White advanced with Bazemore. There's a nice surprise over Jim Murphy. Del Worsham, the youngster, beat Paula Martin. And Mike Dunn second in the points over Jim Epler.
More round 1 action. John Forrest got by Mark Sievers. Al Hoffman put away Richard Hartman. Ed McCulloch beat Jerry Caminito. And Mark Oswald got by Tom Hoover.
And in that first round action, it was Ed McCulloch with the quickest elapsed time of them all at a 5:29. And his opponent here, Mark Oswald, at a 5:31. So Don Garlett, this has the earmarks of being a dandy.
Well, I think that Oswald's probably going to have to step up because McCulloch knows this track. He's run here a tremendous amount. He knows the atmospheric conditions and he knows the surface. And those are the two keys at this particular race.
Ed McCulloch was a local hero here in the Northwest long before anybody in the country knew who he was. This was his jumping off spot. Mark Oswald, the In-N-Out Burger car. This was the West Coast car. You may recall they had two machines, one for the East, one for the West. Long, confusing story, but it works for them.
Sure does. Says Mark Oswald, a full-time professional. We've seen him so many years running for the Candies and Hughes team, but now in an In-N-Out car, and he's going to have to keep it in against the ace.
That's right. Mark Oswald has done one thing Ed McCulloch has never accomplished, and that is he has been a Winston champion. McCulloch has won the U.S. Nationals 5 times. No other driver has ever done that. So here's a couple of superstars and a super race. Oh, boy. Linda McCulloch says, woo, thank you. A 5:34, 2:66 for her husband, Ed McCulloch, to go to the Final Four. Oswald a 5:39, but no steam at all on the big end. 2:49. Maybe something went wrong with that car. Don Garlett says, with Linda.
Well, old Ace is looking good.
I'm telling you, Bernie's brought this thing back, and we're going for it. No more runner-ups this week.
Yep, McCulloch was runner-up just a week ago at the California Nationals, Sears Point Raceway. Here, the far lane, Don Garlett's a little bit of an advantage, not much for Oswald.
Well, it was a pretty good advantage in that he was ahead of McCulloch, even though on the camera it looks like he's behind. That's just the angle. Oswald is still actually leading this race. McCulloch was watching the car the whole time. But as they got down toward the end, something happened to Oswald's car. I think it burned a piston. We can see a little flame coming out of the pipes, and McCulloch just eased by him at the end.
Ace, very smart racing, not trying to match that 5:27 from round one, because this is a different racetrack.
Well, we know that, when we get to Seattle and it warms up out here, the racetrack usually gets a little worse. If we could have some cloud cover, it helps the racetrack a lot. But sun's been beating down on it, and I mean, we got to take them one round at a time, so we just backed her up a little bit.
You may have made more laps down this old asphalt ribbon than any driver here.
Well, Steve, you go back a long ways here, too. We've had a lot of fun here at Seattle, and, we got a lot of great people and a lot of great fans up here, and it's just good to be back in Seattle.
Some stories we can tell and some we can't. From SIR.
So Ed McCullough moves on to the semifinals as yet another pair of funny cars backs into position. This is Jim White. We talked to him earlier. The man who low qualifies all the time, has trouble winning. And he's going to go against young Whit Bazemore, who's starting to show some muscle. He's been around for a while, Steve, trying to get his act together. Whit used to be a photographer in this sport and now jumped behind in the seat of a funny car and is doing pretty well.
Well, I'm sure Jim White recognizes the fact that Whit Bazemore of today is not the Whit Bazemore of 6 months ago. For one thing, he's had some excellent mechanical help from the Darrell Gwynn Top Fuel crew. They don't have the racing, so they can give him a hand. The funny car guys are going to. And some help from Permitex. A bit of a sponsor has helped the youngster out of Atlanta, Georgia, get his act together, and he's qualified in the mid-540s. Jim White, he is the dominant car in this sport right now from a sheer performance standpoint. But he's still quite a few points behind John Force in the championship chase.
So it's going to be a more interesting race than it might have been, as you say, 6 months ago or a year ago. Whit Bazemore is suddenly a factor in funny car competition.
Oh, yeah, Big Daddy, what's the steam out of that car?
That's a little smoke coming out of the breather. Whit Bazemore might not be in that good a shape.
Boy, he's given White a race to half track. Bazemore and Page, but he was there. Roland Leon knew it as well. So it is Jim White advancing. Oh, boy, 5:28. In the heat of the day with the sun beating down on the racetrack. That is a marvelous performance by that Hawaiian Punch car.
There are a couple of laid-back competitors. Joe Amato, Tom McEwen talking about their strategies coming up in the semis at Top Fuel. As it turns out, they will not race each other. McEwen against Pedregon. Gordy Bonin is the man that Joe Amato will face. And now let's go to Steve at the far end.
Well, Jim White came out of the car, bopping up and down. Let's see if he has any idea how quick he ran. I'll tell you, it's real good.
It ran real good. I know it ran through the middle real nice. It even tried to pick the front end up out there just a little bit.
What do you think? Give me a number.
Oh, gosh, I hate it when you do this to me. I'm going to say high 20.
5:28.
That's about what I thought. It really felt nice. Just tried to carry the front end just a little bit. It was a nice little drive. It sure made a nice ride.
The most impressive drive of this round so far, I guarantee you that.
So Jim White and Roland Leon showing some real muscle here at Seattle. Meanwhile, back in the pits, that's Lee Beard working on Gordy Bonin's Top Fuel dragster. He is going to go against Joe Amato in the Top Fuel Final Four. Stick with us. We'll be back with more from Seattle International Raceway.
Here at the Jolly Rancher Northwest Nationals, we see Al Hoffman doing his burnout. Now the fans anticipate a long one from John Force. Force is having a little problem with the throttle. Finally, he gets it mashed down, and look at him blaze the tire back. I don't know if it's productive for a lapse time, but the fans sure like him.
He puts on a great show both on the racetrack, back in the garage area, where I'll tell you what, he's a one-man band, one of the funniest guys in the business.
You know, as they're backing up, let me take a moment to invite you to become a member of a very special organization, the National Hot Rod Association. For $45 per year, you get 48 issues of National Dragster, a patch, pen, rule book, and a lot more. And if you order by calling the number on your screen, you'll get a free copy of Diamond P's home video, Drag Racing 90. Want to make that call today.
Great opportunity. And a great opportunity for this man, by the way, to add to his points lead.
Absolutely. Mike Dunn was closing in on him until last week in Sonoma, California, when Force won. He knows this track very well. Not only has he run all the NHRA events, but a lot of specialty events as well. He is up against a real comer in this sport, the winner of the Winston Invitational, Al Hoffman, who has handling his toolbox, one of the best in the business from Western New York, Tom Anderson. The body up there, that's pretty routine. Anderson just likes to see everything that's going on in there, make sure it's cool.
So, good race. Hoffman could surprise here, Big Daddy.
He sure could. He's only got to step up about a tenth, and that's pretty easy to do in this kind of weather and the track conditions like they are. he might do it.
I would call this track, well, maybe a little bit tricky right now. Every driver I've talked to at the far end considers himself very lucky if he gets down there in the 530s even. Oh, Force with a brilliant start. A little tire smoke. He pedaled the car, kept the tire smoke to a minimum. What a fine drive by John Force. 534, and he needed all of his talents as Hoffman comes up with a nice 539. Let's go to Don Garlis down on the starting line with Austin Coyle, the crew chief for John Force.
Nice steady performance, Austin.
Well, yeah, we were trying to step it up a little bit. It looked like it smoked the tires out there a bit, and he had to help it, but he's so good at that, it hardly matters.
That is the most respect I have ever seen Austin Coyle show a driver.
Austin Coyle, always tough on his drivers, doesn't give them much slack. Here's a young man with some real pressure on him, young Mike Dunn. He just saw John Force blow off his opponent. He's chasing him in the points lead. He's going to face Del Worsham, who is no pushover, Big Daddy.
Del Worsham and his dad, Chucker, got that car running real good. In fact, he's running better than Dunn today at this particular race. So he's got to watch out.
So let's see how this race turns out. In the meantime, let's go to Steve with John Force.
John, you and your old buddy, the ace, McCullough, go into the next round virtually deadlocked. Both of you ran 534s.
He got lane choice?
You got lane choice.
I got lane choice. Well, you need the brake. You know, my little sweetheart here is playing games. I told Coyle that run before, he said, Force, you're totally brain dead and you left. And I said, man, my foot hung up on the throttle. I don't know what happened. They went through everything. They could find nothing. And on the burnout, I rolled in, stepped down, and it wouldn't go. Throttle hung on me again, and I
wondered why you stopped.
I had a pounder, and then on the stage, I hate to drive a race car that way. If you pedal or you loose, you're in trouble, and I had to put her on the wood. Thank God I didn't have to pedal.
Good driving on the part of John Force. You can bet that throttle will get fixed out.
You want to run through that explanation again, Steve?
Well, I do speak Force, several dialects. What we thought was good driving was a stuck throttle more than anything else. He wanted to pedal, but was afraid the throttle wouldn't work again once he got it unstuck. Mike Dunn, he doesn't care about any of that. He's just trying to put the EV-able Snickers, Kmart, Dodge Daytona into the Final Four. I think it's 21-year-old Del Worsham. I tell you, this kid is really amazing. He works in the car. He hauls it from race to race with a pull-along trailer. Doesn't have one of those big semis, but they got big talent in the form of his father, Chuck Worsham, a concrete contractor from Southern California with just the fine touch for these nitro motors.
Well, he's going to need it right now because Mike Dunn has a bunch of incentive, and in fact, Worsham got away well and will win it.
Del Worsham, 536, one for the kids, 272 miles an hour. And Mr. Consistency, Mike Dunn, hasn't been at all this weekend. His dad just couldn't get that handle on it, even though he knows his track well. A 549 is their parting shot.
Well, Mike Dunn knew he wasn't running good, so he took a slight starting line advantage, but he just didn't have the power. In fact, it didn't seem like they were making the power that they made a few weeks ago up on the mountain in Denver. They were running as good up there as they were running here at sea level. Del Worsham just continued to charge down the track, and right in the middle, it looked like Mike Dunn might have made a slight little start, but we saw a little smoke come off the car, and it slowed, and Worsham went on to win very handily.
And John Forrest will like Del Worsham for that one, put Mike Dunn out. So that sets up the pairings for the Final Four. It will be Jim White versus Del Worsham. White will have the lane choice with that great 528. The second pair in the Final Four will pit Ed McCullough against John Forrest. Never a disappointing combination. Forrest with lane choice. Let's go to Brock.
Mike, a 49 obviously for this car, and you had just hopelessly out of the park. What was the problem?
We had problems all weekend, and we just couldn't seem to find it. We thought it was in the fuel system. We went back to our old fuel system, and obviously that wasn't it, and we're going to have to search for it.
Once you lose the handle on one of these things, sometimes it's real hard to get it back, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We thought we had it. We found a couple problems. We made some changes, but didn't work out. Every time you think you got it and it goes out there, and it's just one more thing you got to look for that's just not there.
Well, we know you'll be back.
We'll be back.
Well, that was not the usual competent Mike Dunn. Here's the crew putting the finishing touches on the Cruise Pedragon top fuel dragster. Would it be too much to call it the Cruise Missile? Yeah, probably would be. Stay with us.
Take a look at this. Coming out of the blue down the drag strip here at Seattle International Raceway. That is the Blue Angels. They're in town for the annual Seafair festivities. Drag racing, of course, a big part of that. Unlimited hydroplanes on Lake Washington. And, of course, a great aeronautical display by these guys. What a show.
We have met a lot of the Blue Angels crew chiefs. In fact, there's a bunch of them out here this weekend. Their work is done. They can't fly the plane. They just wrench on it. They're all in the grandstands enjoying the Northwest Nationals. We're about to enjoy pro stock. The first pair will be Bob Glidden over in the far lane, the red Motorcraft Ford Probe, and Larry Morgan here, the Castro GTX Oldsmobile. Not a lot of surprises in round number one. Warren Johnson defeated Don Beverly. Frank Iaconio fell to Ricky Smith in his Pontiac. It was Bruce Allen over Mark Powick, and Scott Jeffrey on part of the Warren Johnson team defeated Gordy Rivera.
In the second group, Daryl Alderman, of course, always strong. He beat up on Jerry Eckman. Jim Yates beat Paul Rabeshi. Larry Morgan beat Butch Leal, and Bob Glidden got by Vincent Corey.
So, round two action of the 500 cubic inch, 1,200 horsepower, gasoline-burning, carbureted, 5-speed equipped cars now in many cases. In fact, most of the top qualifiers, except for the Dodge, utilizing the Liberty 5-speed transmission. Bob Glidden pioneered that unit, so you can bet he has one on board. Larry Morgan as well. Now, Morgan was runner-up just a week ago. He was hole-shotted by Daryl Alderman in the Dodge and is still stinging from that episode at the California Nationals.
Larry Morgan always tough in that Oldsmobile, and I'm sure looking for some kind of retribution, but he's got a tough deal. The Newark, Ohio native in that beautiful Castro GTX Oldsmobile going against the legendary Whiteland, Indiana, Bob Glidden. Well, I'll tell you what, hard to make a choice between these two guys, Big Daddy.
It sure is. Both of them run real good, and both of them usually meet the challenge of a fierce competitor, and that's just what we got. Two fierce competitors sitting on the line side by side right now.
In completely different machines. Bob Glidden, the only competitive Ford Pro stock car in the entire sport. Nobody can figure out how only he can make that combination work. The RPMs come up to about 7,000 or so. They'll sidestep the clutch and start shifting the gears, but Glidden won't. Glidden, for some reason, he must have had a throttle problem. Something happened. Then the car sideways. Very rare set of circumstances for Glidden. For Larry Morgan, it's a 733, kind of right there, 188 miles per hour. I say kind of right there, because Warren Johnson was the #1 qualifier at 724. But Daryl Alderman and that Mopar Dodge shocked everybody round one with a 720. Here comes Warren Johnson. He'd like to get low elapsed time of the event back, because that carries 50 bonus Winston points.
Well, he's going to go against an old pro in this business, a guy who is very, very good on a starting line, Ricky Smith, out of King, North Carolina. Not too many pro stock victories, but always a contender and always a threat.
Oh, absolutely. And Warren Johnson, his cars have never run better. He's running two machines. We'll see the other one later on. And a lot of people feel that that may be a distinct advantage. He's getting twice the track time. He wants to try something. He just goes over to Scott Jeffrey on Scarlet. If it works, he can apply it to his own.
Warren Johnson, no doubt, thinking about that 720 pass that Alderman put down just a little bit earlier, but right now his mind is on Ricky Smith.
What a great lead by Warren Johnson. He might have been out a little bit on Ricky Smith, and nobody does that. Johnson blows Smith away with a 729. Listen to the speed. This is a non-supercharged gas car, 190.47 miles per hour. Ricky Smith pleased the scene with a 734. I think Johnson was out, Big Daddy.
He sure was. I guess he surprised Smith, because Smith is known to be one of the best leaders in pro stock, but not this time. Johnson leapt on him very decisively and continued to make distance on him as they go down track. Smith was never actually a challenge to Johnson, not from the very starting line. Johnson's power continued to build as he went down course, and he wins very decisively.
Warren, on a day like this, a lot of guys would take a 29, but you seem a little disappointed.
It was a bad run. We shook first, second, and third gear, but fortunately, I think we were out on Ricky, who is a notorious good lever, and we won. That's the bottom line, really.
Onward and upward, and hopefully an improvement next and the next round.
Yeah, we definitely got our work cut out, because the track is changing.
Okay, go get him. Okay, Warren Johnson, back to work.
Well, on Johnson's trip up the return road, you can bet he'll be glancing over at this car, because he owns it. That is Scott Jeffrey, on 25 years old, from Huntington Beach, California, and he is up against a total professional, Bruce Allen and a Rarin Morrison Chevy Beretta. Bruce Allen from Arlington, Texas plays a big part of the preparation of this car, not only driving it, so he has an intimate relationship with the machine. Got Jeffrey on, he leads the preparation up to Kurt Johnson, Warren's son. They're based in Sugar Hill, Georgia. Okay, the RPM's coming up on these 500 cubic inch machines. Oldsmobile near lane, Chevy Beretta far lane. Oh, this is a wonderful drag race. Whoa, who won it, you ask? Well, the fist in the air of the AC Delco crew should tell you that. It is Scott Jeffrey on 7.301. Bruce Allen runs 7.301. Both run 189. The margin of victory, 1/100th of a second.
And that's just exactly what Jeffrey on took at the starting line. 1/100th of a second advantage, and he held on to that. No gain, no loss as they go down track, side by side like they were tied together. Even the mile an hour was in 4/100ths of a mile an hour as they crossed the finish line.
Boy, here's some stats you'll seldom see in drag race or any other motorsport. Look at that. Neither driver could possibly have known who won. All right, we move along. Pro Stock continues, and you're on board with the very best of them all. The Mopar Dodge and Darrell Alderman. Only appropriate, I'll let Brock talk about the competition. Any relative of yours?
Well, I'm not really sure. Jim and I have talked about it a little bit. We're really not sure where the family tree splits up, but nonetheless, Jim Yates is starting to run really well in this class. Maybe thanks to the help of Bill Grumpy Jenkins, who's doing his engines for the Fairfax Station, Virginia driver. But his hands are definitely full. He faces, as you say, the best of the bunch, Lexington, Kentucky's Darrell Alderman in that awesome Dodge.
And when the Dodge gets backed into a corner performance-wise, Alderman's driving talent seems to surface and save the day, as he did just 1 week ago today down at the California Nationals. Alderman just an incredible competitor, headed for what may be his second consecutive Winston Championship. But Jim Yates right here would like to humble him. Let's see if he's up to it. Terrific effort by Jim Yates, but a little bit short. Darrell Alderman, a 7.29. Warren Johnson wasn't happy with the 29. I doubt that Darrell will be either. 188.99 miles per hour sends Jim Yates packing. His times will read a 7.35. And in the final four, that 7.29 will be enough for Alderman to have lane choice over Larry Morgan. And the second pair, when we get there, will be Scott Jeffrey on versus Warren Johnson. The same pair who squared off 2 weeks ago in Denver at the Mile High Nationals, with Johnson beating his teammate. Who has lane choice there? Johnson will.
Well, Darrell, we came off a little bit from a 20 to 29, but it's the racetrack's probably coming apart a little bit with the heat.
Yeah, it was a little bit looser in low gear there. Car moved around with me in low and second, and you know, when it's loose like that, it's hard to ET.
With the day steadily getting warmer here, what do you think it's going to take to win this thing?
Well, it's going to take consistency and getting through the gears without shaking the tires. And if you drive good, you'll have a good chance of being in the final.
Mid-20s, you think I'll do it with this kind of heat?
Yeah, mid-20s should be right in there.
Okay, we know you can do it.
Thanks, you.
Alderman still has a 4-speed transmission and doesn't seem to handicap that car much. Here is Tom McEwen crawling into the Mobil 1 car, putting his battle dress on for the Top Fuel Final Four to come. Stay with us from Seattle.
Back at the Jolly Rancher Northwest Nationals, I'm Brock Yates along with Steve Evans and Big Daddy Don Garlitz, and right now we're back to Top Fuel action.
And it will be Tom the Mongoose McEwen in the near lane up against Cruz Pedregon. Now, McEwen won the Summer Nationals in New Jersey, first time out with his new crew chief, Larry Meyer, and his driving was flawless. But last weekend, the California Nationals in Sears Point near San Francisco, McEwen apparently had a problem on the starting line, a mental lapse, something, I don't know. But he just sat there and watched Laurie Johns go down the racetrack, and he is beating himself up over that constantly. He needs to just put it aside, forget it, lose it.
Well, he might have a good shot here with Pedregon, although Pedregon gives him a good race, Big Daddy. In fact, it was closer than I'm sure the Goose expected.
It certainly was, and of course Pedregon's an unknown quality. He's driving a brand new car, and it could step up at any moment. Has been running very well at this event, so McEwen had his hands full.
503 to a 509, I'll say he did.
Okay, this could be the Top Fuel drag race of the day. Joe Amato going for his 11th straight round victory. Going against Gordy Bonnet, who has lane choice by a wink. And remember, Joe Amato almost fell to Dick LaHaye in the second round. So Gordy Bonnet showing some real strength here. But before the race, let's go up to Steve Evans with the Goose.
The other night, the owner of this car, Jack Clark, hit 3 home runs in one game, including a grand slam. And he told this man, Tom McEwen, to do the same thing at Seattle, and so far, so good.
Sure is, Steve. We've been real fortunate, and Jack Clark Mobile One car's been running good. The crew's been doing a great job, and as I've said before, I got the easiest thing. I don't want to embarrass them like I did last week at the California National, so looks like we're going to be in the final, but that Cruz Pedregon is... watch him. He's an up-and-comer. He's a good one, and I raced with his father many years ago, and he's a class act with Minor and those guys, and it's a pleasure to race him, and this is a real fun race to be this weekend, and I hope that our luck continues.
All right, let's go to the starting line and find out who the Goose will race in the final and if he'll have lane choice.
This could be one of the better races of the entire day because both cars know the potential of the other car. In Amato's case, he knows that Lee Beard wants to step this car up and Bonin wants to win. But by the same token, Richards realizes that he has got to step on. He didn't like that performance of that last round.
No, he certainly didn't. Neither car is staging. They're sitting there playing a little mind game, possibly. Finally, Bonin says, hey, you'll only lose at this game. You're on board with Amato. You don't see Gordy, you won't see Gordy. Oh, my. Even Tim Richards reacts to a 496 in the heat of the day, 283 miles an hour. Bonin with a nice 505. It just wasn't enough. Let's go down to Don Garlitz to talk to that elated Tim Richards.
You should be ashamed of yourself picking on that kid like that.
Well, he's no kid, and that's a real tough car to beat. That green car has been missing for a while, but I always considered that our toughest rival, and I still do. Thanks.
A 496 will give Amato lane choice over Tom McEwen in the final round of Top Fuel here at the Jolly Rancher Northwest National. Well, I'll tell you, Larry Myers got his work cut out for him. Somewhere he needs to find about 1/10 of a second that he's going to tangle successfully with Amato. In the Darrell Alderman pits, we noticed the transmission is out of that Dodge. In fact, it comes out every round like a dragster or a funny car. They overhaul the clutch every single pass, just like they packed the parachute. All right, let's go to Brock Yates. He's with Lee Beard at the end.
Well, Lee, when you go against the 96 in this kind of heat, Gordy and you guys did a great job. 505 would theoretically have done it, I would think.
Well, we were pleased with our performance all weekend long, and actually, I'll tell you, we came up here a little soft this round. The sun's been out on the racetrack all day, and we saw some tire smoke there at the end of the first session there, and we were a little leery about the thing. After I got up there and walked around on the starting line, I wished I'd have came up here with a lot more horsepower. To be honest with you, I'd have rather seen us smoke the tires than just have me outrun me like that, you know.
Right. Well, it's this is a game of incessant guessing, and nobody's runs 100% in this deal, unfortunately.
Well, unlike IndyCar racing or Winston Cup racing, you don't get to come back into the pits halfway through the race and make any adjustments. What you set it up with back there is what you're going to have to go with, and that's what makes drag racing so difficult.
And so spectacular and so interesting. Congratulations for a great job so far, Lee.
Thank you very much.
What he wouldn't give to run that race over. You can bet that'd be a different car under Gordy Bonin. Pulling into the staging lanes is Del Worsham, 21 years of age, looking to win his 3rd national event in his rookie season. Will he do it? Stay with us. A huge crowd on hand on a picture-perfect day at the foot of Mount Rainier, Seattle International Raceway. You know, a quick word about NHRA Now, presented by Castro GTX. It's a 24-hour drag racing information line with the latest on your favorite drivers and events. You just call 1-900-468-NHRA. You'll be billed by your local phone company.
All the information just a quick dial away as we get ready to go with the final 4 in Funny Car. And that automobile you see backing into position in the seat, young Del Worsham from California, and he has his hands full, Big Daddy. He's gone against Jim White, and White is running hard.
But you know something, Brock? If I was a betting man, I would say that Worsham's got a better chance here than he's ever had, because this is where usually they do something wrong on the Roland Leong Jim White team. It's usually minor, but it usually puts them out of the race. And Worsham has been real steady, and he's also a very good lever. So I'll tell you, it's about an even matchup in my book.
Well, Jim White told me, Big Daddy, at Sonoma, he thinks that somebody comes in, breaks into the trailer Saturday night, puts a different car in there. Because it never seems to run on Sunday like it will on Saturday. But here they are in the Final Four. The far lane, 21 years old. If there's, he's Rookie of the Year. I just awarded it to him. He's won 2 national events. He gets the Evans Rookie of the Year award. Jim White, well, let's see what happens. He's low qualifier.
Unbelievable.
Oh, man. Little smoke out of it, but they'll take it. The Hawaiian punch car with Jim White on board goes into the final round. But what a fight Worship put up.
And it looks to me like Roland leaned her out just a little too much.
No question about that. It's belching fire pretty good down at the far end of the racetrack. Don?
Well, you just barely got by him, but that's all it takes.
Yeah, it looked like we heard something down the end. Only run 264, so we might have heard it, but we'll get it done for next round.
Okay, a pretty good drag race, especially by young Worsham, who almost put it on Jim White. White leaves well. Good, quick reaction time on the veteran driver's part, but Worsham, after kind of a slow start, really gathers it all up mid-track and almost nailed White.
As we can see the cars come down course, we notice that White's lead is just about what he got at the starting line. Worsham almost gathers him up.
Boy, that was a drag race. And that kid has really been a thorn in your side in the round of 4. He's beaten you twice this year there.
That's really true, and they're good guys and great racers. We really enjoy racing guys like that, except when they beat us, and then it really irritates us. But this car is, we just feel like if it'll just do what it's supposed to do, everything's going to be just fine. Today, it's just been running flawlessly. Right now, we've got a bit of a problem, but I got the guys that can fix it.
It is raining oil off of the back of the car, and I'm sure that's what you're talking about. How serious do you think it is?
Well, there's no rods out of it, but it is a little bit damp. We've got some work to do.
Okay, we'll let you get at it.
Well, the Roland Leong Jim White team definitely dodged a bullet on that one. A lot of oil running out of the back of that car. And they're right. It will be a lot of work to fix it.
Moreover, Jim White faces some real challenges in the final here. He either goes against the Autopops car of Ed McCullough or the Castrol automobile driven by John Force. So that's a pick-em as far as competition is concerned. Jim White's facing troubles either way.
That's right, and I'll tell you, this is a crowd pleaser here at Seattle International Raceway. If you polled these fans, I guarantee you their #1 favorite funny car would be Ed McCullough. He's a homeboy. Their #2 favorite car would be John Force, because he has raced up here every summer since his career began some 15 years ago.
And both of them should know exactly what to do on this track under these kind of conditions. They both run here an awful lot.
And I don't think there's any advantage to lane choice, do you?
Nope, none whatsoever. These lanes are even.
All right, let's watch the Christmas tree. Let's watch the nose of these cars as they bump them into the beams very carefully. Each driver trying to pretend that the other isn't there. You can't really do that. Not when the rivalry is as intense as it is between McCullough and Force. Oh, wow. The round of 4, what racing. A little fire out of Force's car right at the finish line, but he wins it. 5:31 to a 5:36, 270 miles per hour. Let's go to Don Garlitz down on the starting line with the victorious crew chief, Austin Coyle.
A 5:31, it run good.
Good enough for lane choice. Looks like we heard it a bit down there, but we got plenty of parts.
I figured that.
Just what Coyle and the attack team like. A little challenge, either a fire or blown motor, something to keep them busy between rounds. And I'll tell you what, Force was busy against McCullough in this pass, Big Daddy.
Well, neither John Force nor Austin Coyle trusted the McCullough Federle team. Force took a starting line advantage, and Austin Coyle had that baby tuned up. Tuned up so much, in fact, that Force had to backpedal it just a little bit as the tires got loose. But see it right there? He's a master at it. But he won the race very handily and advances, even though they're going to have to repair quite a bit of damage.
So there you've got it. It's going to be Jim White versus John Force in the funny car final when Force has lane choice. Now let's go to Steve with the man, John Force.
They say where there's smoke, there's fire, but John, lots and lots of smoke, but no fire, fortunately.
No fire? Well,
are you disappointed?
All I can say to Jolly Rancher and the people is flavor don't get no better than this, and that's a fact. Got to put in my plugs now in case I don't make the next round here.
Well, there's only one more to go, John. An awful lot of smoke out of this thing, and oil on the racetrack.
Well, that's something new, but you're racing McCullough. You can't give him nothing. And even when she shook, I almost feathered her, and I thought, nope, she'll go through it. Coyle said it would. We took that lane to try to put McCullough over on the other side to get the advantage. And, you know, what can I say? It motored through her. She never nosed over. If she was on fire, I didn't know it.
And one more time, you will have the choice of lanes.
I don't know if that's important right now. I think the lanes are good, and but we'll see. At least gives you option if somebody owes it.
Well, we're going to see them a little bit later, but coming up next, we've got some pro stock action. The teammates, Jeffrey On versus Warren Johnson. Stick with us. We'll be back from Seattle.
On a beautiful day at Seattle International Raceway, we're into the Final Four in pro stock at the NHRA Jolly Rancher Northwest National, and it is an all Oldsmobile, all Team Johnson affair. Warren Johnson, the AC Delco Olds, Scott Jeffrey on the unsponsored car that really started out as a mule automobile, really just something for R&D purposes. Now a very competitive machine. And Warren Johnson tells me, hey, I need the points. I'm the running for the championship, but still, we race heads up anytime we get together. Let the best man, best car win.
Well, so there they go. Team Johnson nose to nose down the drag strip, and it's the boss.
Warren Johnson, 724 to a 734. Jeffrey On with a little edge up the starting line made it look a bit closer than the elapsed times might indicate. All right, who is Warren Johnson going to race in the final?
Well, the odds-on favorite, I would say, would be the man behind the wheel of this dreaded Dodge, the Darrell Alderman automobile out of Detroit.
But I tell you what, his opponent, Larry Morgan, really feels that he owes him one after the final round a week ago at Sears Point when Alderman hole-shot it. Larry in his Oldsmobile. Let's go to Brock with a man who has already made the final round.
Well, Warren, a 24 is a big improvement. Scott ran a 34, so Team Johnson, as it were, moves on.
Yeah, this track has been eluding us all day. We thought it'd get real good, which it did the first round, and we were a little bit soft on it. In fact, a whole bunch soft, to be perfectly honest. In second round, we got too aggressive, and I think we were pretty close to home on this run, so the AC Delco Oldsmobile fortunately came through on this one.
Go get him.
Okay, thanks, Brock.
Okay. Warren Johnson, on to the finals.
Well, you'd have to agree with his analogy. He thinks that's about perfect, a 724. Let's see what the Dodge of Alderman and the Oldsmobile of Larry Morgan can muster. You can bet they can still see that 24 on the electronic scoreboard. There's Morgan. You're on board with Alderman. Manually shifting that 4-speed transmission. Larry Morgan air shifting at the push of a button is 5-speed, and whoa, what a race. Morgan darn near pulled it off. Morgan actually lapped a bit on Alderman, but it wasn't enough. A 729 to a 732 puts the Dodge in the final round up against Warren Johnson. And Johnson will have the lane choice with that 724. Over in the Jim White pits, they indeed found some overdone parts, but they have been replaced with fresh iron, and they will be ready for the funny car final to come. Let's go down to the far end again. Brock with Darrell.
Well, Darrell, the good news is at 29. The bad news is, of course, Warren runs at 24, so he's got lane choice.
Yeah, and we lost lane choice there, and the boys are just going to have to tune it up a little bit for this final round. Both lanes are good here. We just need to get the right combination on the clutch and get through the gears and not spin or shake.
Every morning, Darrell Alderman prays for a shady, cloud-filled day. That's when his car runs the best. In the John Force pit, well, they have no problems whatsoever. Believe it or not, this is what they call routine maintenance. Stay with us.
This is TNN, the Nashville Network.
You think big-time drag racing isn't complicated? Ask Tim Richards. That is the computer readout that he's going through on the Joe Amato automobile, searching for yet more power in a competition that's coming up at Top Fuel against Tom McEwen. So we're going to see that later. Joe Amato going for his third straight victory in Top Fuel.
But right now, let's have a look at some earlier action in the sportsman category. This huge crowd got exactly what it wanted in Top Alcohol Funny Car. From just down the road in Tacoma, Washington, their man, Pat Austin in the Castro GTX Oldsmobile, took on the legend in the category, Brad Anderson. He put Brad away for his 40th national event victory, and he is 26. years of age. Has that boy got a future? A lot of rumors he might be moving into top fuel racers and funny cars as early as next year. Pat Austin wins top alcohol funny car. And here's how the other classes fared. Blaine Johnson took a big leap towards a Winston championship in top alcohol dragster. David Rampey, the defending comp champion, won here in Seattle. Super Stock went to Rick Pike in Stock Eliminator. The winner here in Seattle was Don Keene. And categories that followed: Super Comp, Ray Shearer, congratulations to him. And also our best to the Super Gas winner, Mike Duddleston. Super Street, they had all the classes here this weekend. Shane Schaefer. Great job, gentlemen, all. Big Daddy Don Garlits, it's Pro Stock final time. Your thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you, if they ever had Darrell Alderman in a grip, they got him now. Warren Johnson has run better in the last 2 rounds than Darrell. And I tell you, it's interesting to see what they would do over in the pits to make up that difference, because you know they're very concerned in the Alderman camp.
Well, David Hutchins does the Dodge motor. Mike Sullivan tunes the chassis. Darrell Alderman will not admit it, but I wonder if they're not at a handicap without the new 5-speed transmission. The kind of manual transmission he has in that car, it takes 60 horsepower just to turn the transmission over, and virtually none for the gearbox in the Warren Johnson car. Darrell Alderman driving well, but is it enough? No, it is not. By a coat of paint. Warren Johnson wins the Jolly Rancher Northwest National 723 to a 729. Arlene Johnson and the crew, great job.
Well, Darrell Alderman takes a very slight starting line advantage. He knew he had to be on his toes to be up to the onslaught of Warren Johnson. But as the cars moved down course, Warren Johnson continued to gain just a little as they moved foot by foot. He had a little bit more power, or possibly, as Steve said earlier, the 5-speed transmission allows the utilization of that power better. Anyway, Warren Johnson wins the race very handily.
Well, my friend, you did something today that few have done all year to that dominant Dodge. You just flat out powered it.
I'll tell you, that is a statement there. I mean, those guys are tough. Not only Darrell, the whole Wayne County group really deserves a round of applause. Our guys are no slouches either by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll tell you, it's rough beating those guys.
A 723 you ran.
Well, it wasn't good enough for low ET, but it was good enough for a win. That's all that mattered.
Indeed. Great job.
Thank you very much, Steve.
This points chase is not over yet.
Yeah, as Warren Johnson continues to find more and more horsepower out of that Oldsmobile, it's going to get interesting. Speaking of interesting, look at this masked man. That is John Force getting ready to climb into his funny car to go against Jim White.
There's an old saying in Seattle, if you can see Mount Rainier, it's going to rain within 24 hours. If you can't see Mount Rainier, it is raining. So apparently, it's going to rain tomorrow. Right now, we've got dry track and sunny skies for the final between John Force and Jim White to settle the Nitro Funny Car champion. Don Garlits, what do you think?
Well, both cars hurt them pretty much on the last round. We saw a lot of smoke out of the Hawaiian, a lot of smoke out of John Force. Now, they don't usually like to run the cars like that because they fall off right in that last few hundred feet of the race, which could cost you. Now, the question is, which crew took the most out to try to preserve the engine?
To try to get it all 1,320 feet.
Exactly.
All right, well, we're about to find out. A lot of raw fuel coming out of the pipes. The shadow's getting a little longer here. You can actually see some of the exhaust header fire. They're in. Everybody getting lots of traction. It is John Force with a slower elapsed time. When Austin Coyle doesn't give him the power, John Force wins anyway with sheer driving. A 5:36 for Force defeats a 5:35 for Jim White. Let's go to Don Garlits with the winning crew chief.
It looks to me like the driver saved you guys again.
Well, that's what a driver's supposed to do. That's why them guys get all the glory and most of the money.
Well, Force earned a bunch of it right on the starting line, Big Daddy. He drilled White on the lights, but White wouldn't give up, and as Steve said, ran a better ET, but still lost the race.
Well, Austin Coyle and John Force must have talked about detuning the car a little bit to save it on end. They probably had a lot more damage than we noticed. Anyway, he made it up on the starting line and beat White to the end by a full car length.
John Forrest has matured, in my opinion, into the finest funny car driver in the sport today. John, whatever it takes, you do. You needed to leave on him. You left on him. You won with a slower lapse time. You did it, bud.
I got the greatest team.
They got the greatest driver.
Austin Coyle. I do okay. The best sponsors, Jolly Rancher, Castro, Wax Shop, Easy Water. All these people supported me and poured the money in and supported me all the years that we were terrible. But I got to say, my family, my kids are here. We're on vacation for a week and leaving here, and it's just great. I'm glad to be here, and you know, what can I say? We're moving up in them points, and even Mike Dunn come over. Got to hand it to them. Them guys are great because they love the sport, and their kids played with my kids all weekend and come over and he wished me luck in the family. And if I got to lose to somebody, I want to lose to those kind of people because they're the greatest. I want to say something. Gary Ormsby, until you get well and get back here, I'm going to keep trying to win. I swear to God I am.
John Forrest, funny car champion, the Jolly Rancher Candies Northwest Nationals. Now, top fuel coming up.
And oh boy, it's going to be a good one, Steve. We've got Joe Amato and that veteran crew led by Tim Richards going against Tom McEwen with a relatively new crew led by Larry Meyer. And I'll tell you what, Meyer and company have really done a good job with this automobile, Big Daddy.
Well, they sure have, and they've been real steady all day. Low 5.0s. And I think what they're really looking for is for Richards to make some sort of a mistake, which when you're in the 4s, it's easy to do. You heard Richards in one of the earlier interviews say how difficult it was to keep a car in the 4s and not spin the tires.
Interesting, these two should meet in the final round. When I'm looking for Tom McEwen, I don't go to the Jack Clark trailer. I go to the Amato trailer because that's where he hangs out all the time. Kibitzing with Joe and Jerry, they have become great friends. They see each other socially a lot in Southern California when Amato's in town from Pennsylvania. But right now, well, bragging rights almost more than anything else here. This group meets at a little coffee shop every Monday morning after a race in Orange County just to kid each other. More the guy that wins has the upper hand on those meetings. Here we go. It's Amato and McEwen. And McEwen leaves before the tree comes down. Amato waits for his light and runs a 4.96. McEwen goes from dead late last Sunday to super early this Sunday. Let's go to Don Garlits in the starting line.
We all made two awful nice strong runs in the last two, the semifinal and the final, so it really was running good today.
Well, we found a problem in the second round. We ran on one mag in that second round, and I didn't really know what to expect in the third round, but when the fourth round came, we just left it alone. Thanks.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Solid pass for Joe, but Big Daddy, what happened to McEwen?
McEwen tried to anticipate the light. He knew Amato had a performance advantage, so he stepped on it before the tree was actually activated by Buster and got the red light.
I didn't want to say anything earlier to risk jinxing a very superstitious man, but that's the hat trick. 3 NHRA national events in a row. Few have done it.
Yeah, Steve, you know, I know Garlits and Charlie both done it, and that's in the back of your mind. You don't want to pressure yourself to try and do that. But
that's why I didn't say anything.
I know, I'm very superstitious, but for Team Valvoline, my crew, I mean, 3 races to come and do what they've done. We didn't have to put a motor in to do anything today. That good Valvoline oil really doing the job.
And you've won at different altitudes, different weather conditions. The car is invincible right now. Another 496, by the way.
Oh, that's unbelievable. And for just running them 4s off, you know, it's tough race against Tom. You know, he's a good competitor of ours. We have a team. We go to the hideout to have lunch, and we have it's an agony of defeat luncheon, and he's going to have a lot of agony. They're going to roast him tomorrow. But I can't say enough about my team of brain surgeons. I mean, they're the A-team, buddy. Trust me. They just keep doing this car and making it run and makes Joe Amato's life easy. Puts a lot of pressure on me.
Well, you don't show it. Great job.
Well, we try and do, you know. I'd like to thank all my fans for supporting me out there. We really appreciate you.
So Joe Amato joins a very exclusive club. 3 straight Top Fuel victories in a row, shared, I might add, by my broadcast partner, Big Daddy Don Garlits. For Steve Evans, I'm Brock Yates. Thanks for joining us from Seattle.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by this special offer from Diamond P.
They take it to the limit and beyond. They force body and machine to the extremes of endurance. Often unpredictable, always spectacular. That's the reason Diamond P Sports has once again opened its action-packed archives to produce a dramatic new video entitled And They Walked Away Too. The blazing inferno of high-performance gone awry. Open-wheel sprint cars locked in death-defying ballets. The heart-stopping drum of unbelievable two-wheel disasters. Awesome displays of man and metal turned to mayhem. To get your copy of And They Walked Away, too, send $24.95 plus $4 shipping and handling to the address on your screen. Or better yet, call 1-800-647-1700. Visa and MasterCard accepted, no CODs. That's 1-800-647-1700. Call today.
18, buddy, right here. Three, a hat trick. More pressure.
The American Sports Cavalcade is a presentation of Diamond P Sports.